All righty, we will open up our morning workshop for Klickitat County Board of Commissioners, and we will start with a Public Works update. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so we have a few things on your consent agenda this week. Item 2 is the request for the waiver from the Cub Scouts Pack 551 for the rental of the Klickitat County Fairgrounds for their twice monthly meetings. We have item number 5, which is settlement agreements with Klickitat County Public Works and Chapman Creek LLC. This is for right-of-way along Sundale Road and Old Highway 8 for the purposes of reconstructing Sundale Road and Old Highway 8. Small works contract between us and Columbia River Contractors for the installation of that piece of guardrail that's on Canyon Road that after they logged became hazard, and also the piece on our Dot Road that burned off. And then we have some pay estimates. Pay estimate 2 and final to DBK in the amount of $13,658. And this is for the HVAC installation project. That finishes that. Pay estimate 1 and final to All Seasons in the amount of $34,166.75 this is for the repairs to the HVAC system in this building. And then pay estimate 1 to Olympic Roofing, the amount of $92,000 for the jail re-roofing project. And then pay estimate 1 and final to All Seasons, the amount of $10,830. And this is for the Sadis Pass HVAC project. That's all I have.
For construction, the white plastic edge line project, we had a pre-construction conference last week. They're waiting for materials to be delivered and we'll set a start date for that project. Curve warning signs and guidepost contracts are back from the contractor signed, so they'll be coming before the board consent agenda next week for signature and execution. Our annual striping contract, the contractor is back this morning, starting the second phase for this year's annual striping contract. They're starting on the east side of the county. On design end, still working with landowners on the Sundale Old 8 project with negotiations of right-of-way. As Jeff said, there's some on the consent agenda, some settlement agreements that have already been secured. Pickleton area paving project, we're still waiting for WashDOT to approve the spec package so we can go to add. Same with bridge repair bundles that's sitting at WashDOT waiting approval for our preliminary funding authorization. And yeah, that's the updates.
Okay. On the maintenance side, they're chip sealing Pickleton Highway this morning, and it'll be today and tomorrow, and they will have sealed put the first shot on that 2 miles of Pickleton Highway that we've reconstructed. West Side is actually helping them today and tomorrow. Then they're going to start work on Bingen. That's the project we have for the second phase of the project we have for Bingen, which we are chip sealing a couple of their roads and paving a couple of their roads for their TIB grant. Upcoming facilities, I just got to change the new county services building, update that. But like we talked about, we just have a few minor things to do on that. Pioneer Center started today or yesterday. So we've been working with them. Their units are now disconnected. They are pulling them out of there and they are replacing them. Should be this week. They'll be back with new units. Joan Fry Arena doors. Those are the man doors, not the big overhead doors. Those are getting installed this week. Jail roof replacement is continuing. Superior Court's the same thing. Events, we have an emergency services event at the fairgrounds this week. Fuel Island, we're still same place. Flat Top is now officially completed. The fence has been stood back up. The building is secured again. Sadis Pass fencing is complete. Grounding is scheduled to start on the 9th. Commissioning scheduled to start on the 23rd. Some follow-up issues, some just follow-up things. RCO, we talked about the maintenance grant. Next week, we'll have it on your agenda because you guys have to sign. A lot of our grants you'll find. That's the other reason I was so adamant about us not going through the granting to a committee, because ultimately a lot of the grants we apply for, you guys have to sign for. This one, you have to sign the resolution that we're drafting up that says, and what we're doing with that is it's 100% grant, and it's always very specific, can only be used for maintenance in parks and only outdoor parks. So that means pretty much Trout Lake Park. So what we're looking at, we have about $40,000 we're going to apply for to chip seal the parking lots and or chip seal the roads, patch the roads, do all that. That's the biggest chunk of it. We also have, if you remember the list, those projects are on our list. We're going to try to get as much of that money to pay for those as we can. So that'll be on next week, just giving you the heads up. We can talk more in detail next week. Dallsport, you may get a call about Dallsport striping. I've talked to community council, sent them. We chip sealed it. I'm not going to bring the contractor out for one road. We're waiting until we do Bickleton. It's tabbed. It's still safe. We've had some complaint. We'd like it striped. We want it striped right away. I'm not paying the contractor $4,000 or $5,000 to mow out here twice. As part of their contract, we have a second phase and they come in and they do all the roads we're chip sealing. We're waiting for Bickleton to be complete. And then once Bickleton's complete, they're here, they're working on the east end. So they'll get to Dallsport probably within the next week. So just to give you the heads up. Heringer, I wanted to talk about this, and I've mentioned a little bit of this to Commissioner Zoller last time I saw her. I got something, Carriager submitted their
updated traffic plan.
yeah, traffic plan, yes. Never did come to me though. I got it from a citizen. I said, hey, have you seen this? I'm like, well, it would have been nice to see this, you know, considering it was done the 23rd. And we did sit down with us and DOT. Even though I am CC'd on it, I never did actually get it. And I was wanted board submission. I'm going to talk to Joanne and tell her, you know, I'm not going to check your website every couple of days just to see that something is there. I assumed it was coming to me. That's how development I've always worked with has worked. But leaving that aside, the traffic study is actually pretty good. I mean, what they've done. We compare it to everything else. I mean, they're not trying to, they don't look like they're trying to short circuit the thing and say they're not going to have any impacts. They also talk about a geotechnical report, which we will demand that they do. Or, you know, we will ask that they do. But they do mention that they're going to do that to the next step. Typically, we review them, but in the past, just mainly to save so we can quiet the vocal group that we have that around here that won't be happy unless the answer is no. We've typically shipped it, the traffic study, to Kittleson and Associates, which is the top traffic engineering firm on the West Coast. They do all the work for the manuals and everything else. They are the #1 firm, probably in the nation. They're not real cheap. Public Works has foot the bill. This one won't be that expensive because they're going to look at it and go, yeah, this is fine. Because it's, you know, compared to what Bluebird, and they've reviewed Bluebird. Compared to what Bluebird has said, we did, you know, they're saying their impact's going to be a lot more. Even though they're only 10 megawatts larger than Bluebird. So I guess what I'm looking for is permission to send it there. And then the bigger one's going to be the geotech report, honestly. That, depending on what they do, but that is where we really want to go because that determines what they do for mitigation on our roads.
How much cost do you think?
Kittleson's would be about $5,000 to review it. I mean, we can look at it and say the same thing, but we'll get that vote. You know, I'm sure we'll get.
Get the expert opinion.
again, we can eat, the road can absorb that, and it's a true road cost because it is the development cost. The geotech report, it will be harder for road to do that depending on how good their geotech report is. I'm just giving you the heads up. I'm not saying we have to worry about that now. If it isn't very good, then our guys, who we're pretty fortunate because not only do we have Kittleson, we also have Geode Northern who does that, and they are the top geotech firm in doing green energy. So as far as anybody disputing what they say, they'll be hard pressed to do that. They just won't. I mean, both of those firms are very well known.
What do you expect the mitigation will be?
My guess is they'll have to overlay Night Road.
So by spending $5,000, we'll be able, then potentially a little more, we'll be able to get a new, in essence, overlay on Night Road, which would be the equivalent of how much cost?
Well, let me, that'll come after the geotech report.
Right.
First, we get the 5,000 to do the traffic study, and it's minor. And the guy got pushed back, said, well, I understand you nor the state asked them to do a full TIA. They're doing a full TIA. Because when we met, they kept saying, well, we do a TIA, we don't do a geotech report. We said, we don't care about a full TIA. A traffic impact analysis deals with level of service. We don't have a level of service issue in this. And I didn't want them to say, well, they did this, so why should they have to pay for that? We're like, no, we want the geotech report. As long as we get the traffic, the amount of your trips, we're okay with that. Again, I will give credit. They show where they're going. So I guess I'm looking for the board's buy into what the plan is.
Just for my estimate, what's the estimate on a geotech report?
The last one that we did, and it wasn't done with Bluebird, I want to say was right around $50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Our consultant charged, but that one was not done well. And our consultant basically, Bluebird threw up their hands and said, okay, our guys can't get it. We'll just have Geode Northern, and we'll review Geode Northern's. So they literally paid for our consultant to do it.
Which we usually do.
We just do the review, but they couldn't get there with what they were proposing. They were proposing something that would not have held up for long term. And that's how we ended up with the problem we ended up with under Lund Hill.
But again, so usually they'll have their people do it and they'll
Yes.
pay. And
Yes.
then we'll have our people do our own.
Right.
And they'll still pay for that, right?
Yes, in this instance, they will not though.
In this instance, they will not. So what we're doing is we will be taking a $50,000 risk. Or unless theirs comes in and says we need to overlay it, and then we'll be like, okay, well, that's good enough.
Right. At that point, then I would send it to, and again, that would be a small enough fee, I'm hoping, that road could absorb that. But if we're talking, if it's terrible and there's a lot of back and forth, again, I'm just putting you on notice. I'm not going to say that's going to be the story, and we can breach that when we get there. But that's where you usually run into issues, is the geotech report, because ultimately, they look at it and say, they're a business. We only want to pay this amount of money. This is what we want to pay in mitigation for everything. And an overlay of a road of 4 or 5 miles can blow that really quick, because overlays are expensive. We all know that. To overlay that road, even at their cost, you're over $1 million. If that ends up being what it is, I'm not saying it's going to be, but it could well be. Now, granted, it's a small price to pay when you're talking $100 million project, or whatever they tag in it. No, but
So if we don't have a level of service issue, and we already know that we don't have a level of service issue, what are we gonna get for our $5,000?
well, somebody still needs to review the traffic, assess what the trip generation, which I've done. I haven't completely finalized it, but the trip generation and the trip distribution. Again, that's what we're going to get for our $5,000. The traffic impact analysis, I would not send that to Kittleson, because it's going to come in at an A. And even if they played with the numbers, you're not going to get to level service D anyway. Just isn't. So why waste an additional $15,000 to $20,000 to have them review all those calculations?
Okay, just to let you guys know, I cut your time short today because we needed to put finance in here, so you got another 5 minutes or so for you guys.
I think we're good unless the board has any more questions.
I have one. Can you give me a update or refresher on the Dow Road problem in Dallasport and the Port District's concrete barriers? And is that their road?
That is
private
their road. And it abuts a state highway. So I was asked by their port director quite a while ago, say something. I need you guys to say something. I said, I have no jurisdiction. We cannot say anything. It's not our road. I said, you got to work with the state. And if the state doesn't have an issue, it's their intersection. What can we say? We can't, because then Thomas will say to us, why, what do you have to say there? It's not your road. It's not your intersection. You're not, if they were intersecting with Tidyman or with Dallasport Road, that would be different. We would look at it a lot closer. But when it's a private road intersecting with a state highway, the county has no jurisdiction there. It's between the port and
Thomas.
and the state. And if the state doesn't want them to do anything, it's their road. If something happens, they're the ones that are going to hear about it, not us.
But isn't the issue they put concrete blocks?
I heard they closed off their access.
Oh,
Now, again, I've heard from the other side. I'm like, I got nothing. Remember, I don't have any jurisdiction there. So that's how I'm handling it. Now I think you guys are going to get drug in.
Yeah, I've been working on it several weeks. And I think what Jeff has said, what I found, it is totally a port and a Highway 97 issue with the owner of that lot. Unfortunately, that lot was separated out of the port properties, so it's handled differently. I don't know what the county is going to be able to ever say about this situation. And as I understand from the past too, there have been extensive conversations between that landowner and the port prior to it coming to our table.
Yeah, I don't know that, yeah. So the landowner bought the property from the port. I don't understand how they don't have an easement on the private road to have access on the private road, but what, even if they do or if they don't, that's a civil matter and.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I got one last question.
Okay.
Why are we starting the annual striping on the east side? Don't we usually start on the west and try to get the west done before the rains come?
Well, the reason we typically do, but we started in Roosevelt because that's where they came from. They were over east, so they wanted to do Roosevelt because we put a second shot on Roosevelt to get it through the winter. But they will bounce over to the west side, so they should be in Dallasport pretty quickly.
Okay. I just
And I
know
ha-
the rains are coming.
Yes, no, you're right there.
So on the wish of the airport board, the wish list too was some updated striping. And they know you're coming to Dallasport, so I don't know if there's a possibility to fit them into or not. Or if they have money. It didn't go that far. It's just like, wow, the stripers are going to be down here, send them over. So that's up for consideration too.
That would be money in a contract,
Correct.
whether you're last minuting it.
Yeah.
We could change order it in,
Okay. Let me talk to them.
but they of course have to pay for it.
Correct.
And I'm pretty sure we still have an active interlocal with the airport. I think we do because we've done work with them in the past. We have to be careful because remember, we own the roads and that was before you guys got here. We actually own the roads in the business part. Those are county roads.
So is the access to the airport.
And so is the access to the airport. So those are actually county roads. Those were signed over to the county just before I think you guys got here.
I'll let Jeff know to just have a conversation with you Thank
Yeah, he
you.
needs to do it quick, though.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome, Mr. Gregg. As some of you might be seeing, the finance update that we were supposed to have at 9:30 got postponed to 10:15 because we were up in a finance meeting, so here we go.
All right. So we had our first finance committee meeting that we have not had one for a while due to scheduling. So March was the last time we had one. And we had some, our kind of our main focus was to work on some projects that we had been talking about and some open items. So the first thing, new business was budget, because we're coming out of the budget season. We did have a couple of things that had came up that we put on our list of items to talk about. One of the ones that we spent some time on was just insurance and allocation, which is some of the same stuff, and just kind of figuring out how best to do that. I don't know that we came to a final determination, so I don't have anything for you today, but just that we did have that discussion, and also did talk about anywhere in areas where we're self-insured, you know, can we reserve money or not? Kind of just discussions of what are our options really, so that we can further get back. So we talked about that kind of for quite some time, because it seemed to be an item of how to do it and what to do. And it was a good discussion with the auditor and the budget director, or physical manager, and myself and the commissioner. We did get into some things though that I want to make sure that we're looking at. The auditor had been working on, from our last meeting, a conversation of, we have Fund 138, which we haven't spent any money on that. That's some money that was collected, and that was determined that we could transfer that fund, or the monies in that fund, to the behavioral health. That there wasn't any restrictions on that. That was the question that we had to figure out, was whether we could, whether we would have restrictions or not, or whether the money was restricted. So in doing the research, it was determined that that wasn't. That was some money that I think has been sitting there for 2 years or longer. And the question was, what do we do with it? I think it wasn't one way or the other. It was just more of, we just don't want it to sit there forever and ever and ever. So it was determined that that piece can get moved to 145. So that's something that we'll be working on. And you'll see resolutions that will come before you guys. I mean, this isn't just like done, but it will come in a resolution. The auditor is going to draft the resolution, and we were going to look at it. So I don't know how many, if it's next week or the week after. I know she's headed to a conference, so it could take some time, but that's something that's coming down the road. The other conversation that we had that has come up in budget discussions is Fund 107 and Fund 135, which is, I think 107 is E911 and 135 is communications, or some combination. I might have the titles confused, but I know the fund numbers are correct. Fund 107 and 135. We've had some discussions on how to do, there's transfers in between. Again, another one of those things, the auditor came back and did some research. There's no restricted money in those funds. So I believe that we are going to merge 107 into 135. So that's our recommendation. Again, I believe that there will be a resolution that will come through. We will set new, and this will happen in the end of 2023, beginning in 2024. So that's kind of where we're headed with that. So those were some of the big pieces, and I think things that we've been talking about in and around that we just hadn't really ever had a time to come together. I think it'll be helpful for budgeting, for tracking, for everything. The other thing that we had that had been on the agenda that was a follow-up, which we didn't, it's still kicked out to the next meeting. We need some more work, but was the opioid settlement. We had just a discussion on who's taking it, what to do with it, so on and so forth. That will be on our next agenda. And the other thing that we briefly talked about and kicked out is the taxable fringe and travel policy, which was some discussion around that. So we'll have some more discussion on how that works with payroll and different kinds of pieces. But those were the main topics that we got through. Again, the heavy hitters were, talking about the insurance and what was the good or the bad and pieces like that. Taking 138 funds and moving them to Fund 145 and merging 107 and 135 and ultimately moving them into 135. We think that's the best path. That's all I have at the current time. Is there any questions?
No, I don't have any questions because I was in your meeting, but do either of my teammates have questions for?
Yeah. Commissioner Zoller, do you have any questions?
I do not. It sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Perfect. What? Yeah, we'll have some more on that. We had questions, so we couldn't really get to anywhere at the end. So we'll have to do some work on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Back on time.
If you are ready with public health, we can start early. Next item is at 10:30, which we're a smidge early. Which is department update with Public Health Director Erin Quinn.
Good. So I'm gonna go backwards today. I'm actually gonna start with behavioral health. So to start, I brought Tyrone Bryan. He's joining us from Walla Walla area. He's our new behavioral health manager. I'm incredibly grateful that he's here. So I've asked him to come today and just introduce himself, and eventually he will be doing his own department updates. But I just wanted to let him meet you all today and start there.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. No, I'm actually glad too to be here because a familiar face brought me here, and then I was so lucky to join the team and start working with Erin. And I'm sure you all are familiar with Chris. Did I say his name again? I can't say his name.
Say it fast enough, nobody will know what you say.
Yeah. So Chris and
He's not watching. It's okay.
yeah, Chris and I go way back, and he was the reason why I was, told about the position and also the opportunity. And my wife and I were very keen to move here, and we were very intentional about living in Goldendale. We actually like it, and so far we have a neighbor, a deer.
Welcome to Goldendale.
Yeah.
And
But no, I'm glad to be
you
here.
found a place to live.
Thank you. Thank you. At first I was a bit worried, but then within a couple of weeks, we were able to find a suitable place, and we were happy about that. And then my wife was also able to find employment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
good.
I'm
In
very
public
grateful.
health,
Yes.
just saying. Maximizing opportunities.
I guess.
But I would rather open it up to anyone who'd have any questions. I'm more than willing to answer if you do have any questions.
How's it going so far?
So far, it wouldn't be work if it wasn't work. And so there's a lot of work to be done because just on the surface, you can see there are a lot of gaps. And I want to praise Erin and the team for able to put together the crisis team and to be able to work already to address some of those immediate concerns surrounding access. The future looks bright because one of the things is behavioral health is a growing field and it's getting a lot of attention. And one of the things that I'm hopeful for is to be able to be of value to this wonderful community.
I'm thankful that you're here. And I'm really glad to hear you say the word access. It's been a hard pull for Erin, and I'm thankful you're here to help her.
We, on the same day, September 1st, we also had a nurse practitioner start, Nicole Storley. So she's working on building the infrastructure she'll need to actually start seeing clients probably sometime in the next month. We're still not entirely sure what that will look like. And so once we kind of have a better plan, we'll definitely communicate that. But having her be able to manage medication access, which is a huge gap that we've identified in this county, I think will be make a significant difference. Our building, we are technically moved in. I think we're all using folding tables. It's a little, so we're working on that. We have new paint, we have new carpet. They did, facilities did an amazing job of redoing the window sills for us that were a little rough looking. So everyone's physically working in the office as of September 11th. And then we're gonna coordinate like slowly getting our door open so that people could actually walk in and maybe ask a question. Or potentially get to the point where we can have walk-ins in crisis and potentially keep them from going to the emergency or jail. So We did receive, I'm gonna do a double update for both departments. So behavioral health and public health have both gotten pretty significant grants for workforce development funds. So behavioral health got 125,000, public health got 200,000. So when you feel like you're getting spammed for training and opportunities, that's why. So it's all reimbursement. It has to be approved through the grantors. So I have gone through the approval process before it will get to your desk, but we're going to try to get as much of those dollars utilized as possible. Just we'll never see that money again as far as training and infrastructure building. So that's coming. August was our third busiest month. If you look at our statistics that we have, and I think it's important to note that last year we had, so this year we saw 23 cases. Last year we had 3. So that's a significant increase year over year. That's probably multifaceted. I think the biggest impact is just not having access to any behavioral health services really in the county. I think that really speaks to a lot of that. I would say just when I looked at the data this morning, just really without actually doing the math or doing the counting, I would probably say about a third of those have a substance use component. So really understanding that we need to continue to focus on that as well.
Only a third? Really?
We're still having significant challenges with credentialing to move forward with contracts with the Medicaid organizations. I think I found someone that can do the credentialing for us. Like that's their business. So you may be seeing a contract for a credentialing firm in the next couple of weeks if I can get them onboarded, because I'm at the point where I can no longer, I've hit my wall and I can't get support. So we're going to have to hire someone because I am too far out of my depth on that one. And then I had a question. I don't know if this works or not, but I did just get, we're working with Hyphen. They're the company that did the furniture for the services building. And so I have my first purchase order for them. I'll have it on the consent agenda for next week. It's already good, so I can just hand it to Alyssa and Leanne here. But I don't know if I can get just like a verbal approval. I already have grant funding to cover this, but that way I can get it ordered. It takes 6 to 12 weeks to get it. So I'd like to not delay it if that's possible. And you can look at it if you want. Let's see it.
Well, something fun.
Yeah.
It's grant funded, so I won't tear it apart.
Okay. I mean, I wanted to make sure that we intentionally got some furniture that'll last us for a little bit longer. So anyway, but I'll have that on the consent agenda. But if you don't have any concerns, I can start getting that in the shipping. Because they did tell me there would be significant delays for that. So
Yeah, expect more than you plan.
I know, that's why I thought about waiting until next week and I was like, I'll just see if that's okay with everybody. I have the money for it, so.
Yeah, fine by me.
Thank you. I don't have anything else really for behavioral health right now. Do you have questions about anything behavioral health?
No. Commissioner Zolder, any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Moving on then.
All right, public health. With environmental health, we're working on multiple code compliance cases. I know Avery's supporting George this afternoon and one of the cases that they have going on, so still working with code compliance on those. They did replace the incubator in their lab, but we're continuing to have HVAC issues in the public health. So I'm working with facilities to see what our long-term plan is. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, my office was 94. This week on Friday in the front, it was 64. The incubators don't work well really over 70. So we're trying to keep that lab cooler, but having really challenges. Either it's super cold in the front and sort of warm in the back, or normal in the front and really hot in the back. So I am working with facilities on what our long-term plan is, because we can't have that lab equipment really getting over 70 degrees. So we did complete mosquito trapping season, so that's all done. We will do that again next summer. And then they did make sure that they wanted me to mention that we are seeing a lower trend in permits for the month of September, even though August is, I think was on trend for 2021 or 2022. I'm sorry. Questions about any of that?
Nope.
Clinical, they provided an outreach at Lyle School last week. They did hand washing with all the elementary kids. They had over 60 participants. It sounds like everybody had just an amazing time. We did do some outreach at the White Salmons Farmers Market. We are starting to offer flu vaccine. Flu vaccine's $35. COVID vaccine, we still haven't purchased any. Private pay is still expensive. We're actually waiting to see what insurance reimbursements are going to be. It's still $120 per dose for us to purchase, and making sure that we can actually get our money back.
Wow.
Because that's a significant price. When we buy a flu vaccine, it usually costs us out of pocket $10 per dose. So that's a pretty substantial difference. We will provide COVID vaccinations to children and any adult that is uninsured. So anyone that has insurance, we're encouraging to go to their pharmacy. Most pharmacies do have that available, or will have that available later this week or next, or their primary care provider. The staff are working on a list within the next week to see who actually gets shipments in, so that we can let people know where they can go. We are certain the Goldale Pharmacy is going to have it. We're working on other pharmacies as well to see what their availability is going to be. And then we will have COVID test kits available probably by next week for anyone who might need them. They can just call the front desk and request those. So, questions?
Nope.
Yeah. And then just administrative stuff. We filled our front desk position. We were very excited to have Dilla Bryan join us in the White Salmon office. We did fill our nurse position that's been open since last January. They will be starting November 1st. They are a bilingual staff member, so that will really help with some of our outreach at the orchards and packing houses. And then I do have 2 contracts that are pending. I don't think they are not on your schedule this week, actually, but they are coming up. So our contract, our CONCON amendment 14 adds an additional $900,000 to our budget. 200,000 of that is the reimbursement for workforce development for training and education. So that should be coming up. And then there's another contract for we have a regional health officer through the state, and they will be, there's a memorandum of understanding that will allow them to cover in the event that our health officer is unavailable or on vacation, or in the event that they resign, so that we don't end up where we ended up last year, where we had no coverage. We had coverage, but it was not real. So anyway, so those 2 should be coming in the next week or so as well. Questions?
Okay, I don't.
What's our next wildfire? Seems like you got everything figured out.
I am gonna just let that one slide.
Commissioner Zoller, do you have any questions, comments, concerns? All right. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure again, meeting everyone.
You too, and I'm sure we'll see you around, sir.
Joining the team.
You moved to Goldendale itself?
Yes.
And she convinced your wife to work in white salmon? I mean, that's usually the opposite direction that people travel for work, but.
Well, I can't complain.
Also.
And in the jail.
Also, thanks for asking. We're going to, so we have the Criminal Justice Treatment Act funds. So we get an award through behavioral health, and then Carmen historically has gotten an award for the jail. So in the interest of efficiency, we are transferring the jail award to the behavioral health award, and then we're gonna just work on that collaboratively. We have a plan to work, or we're working on a plan to work that out, but I think it will come later in an amendment. There will not be an actual contract, because you all signed the contract last week with Carolyn. They're just gonna add the money to my award, and then there will be an amendment later that will actually address that we've received those additional funds, but we did in the interest of efficiencies.
And how much time are we spending inside the jail with behavioral health now?
All of it? Like, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 hours, probably,
Yeah, at least
minimum, a week.
a week.
So we have a group that goes in on Thursday for mood disorder management. SUD group on Wednesdays for SUD, and then I think they're just barely getting into where they can go in and do an assessment. So we are doing referrals from the jail. So at intake, they have the opportunity to say if they want to see a substance use provider, if they want to see a mental health provider, and then our staff are triaging them past that. So I'd say minimum of 4 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And then we also have KBH's behavior health coming in and doing a class also. So and we do the MRT class. So they're getting a lot of classes now. They never had that opportunity before.
So what's the next big one for the jail in order to continue down this positive path?
I think that we need to work on getting some programs so that we can gear them for more jail transition to learn how to fill out job applications, things like that, some work source type opportunities. I talked to Aaron too about doing the food cards. I've got all the stuff, all the testing and handwritten testing, so they don't have to go online and do that, but I think that's.
There is, unfortunately, there is a recompete grant out available right now that helps get people back into the workforce for mental health and incarcerated. MCED did not have the capacity to take that on. And our county currently does not have the capacity to take that on. But that would have been a good.
I think we're moving in the right direction. For sure. I think there's better opportunity now. The form that Aaron designed for the jail is working well. I thought of a couple of changes we need to make on it, like the date on it.
Oh, yeah.
So that we.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna provide a better opportunity for the inmates to seek some help. They do that right at intake. So populations, stayed pretty steady. I think it was at 32 this morning. So I believe there were four or five arrests yesterday.
Mhm.
Any questions, Ms. Zoller?
No, I don't. Thank you.
So I just wanted to add to the point. I'm very intrigued about this topic because coordinated reentry is something that communities are actually adopting across the nation. And a lot of times when individuals leave, the number is very high in terms of them going back into the system. So obviously, if we're going to be working together collaboratively, one of the things we have to do is to grow our outpatient program in order to do that. And it's actually part of the crisis intercept mapping process that the federal government will actually recognize. If we can, as a small community, develop a system through collaboration where we work together for when folks are leaving, we have the necessary outpatient services available. So if we can start, which we are already starting inside the jail community, and then when they release in the general community, we can actually address those concerns by starting first where they're actually incarcerated. So hopefully, we're actually now doing a lot of conversations and pre-planning around developing our outpatient service in order to address that concern.
One more question. When I'm looking at your crisis contacts and inpatient placements, how many of those inpatient placements are the same individuals?
I have no.
Frequent flyers, do we know?
No. I do not. I would say just based on looking at my spreadsheet, maybe 2 or 3 have been repeats. There's not, I don't believe it to be very many.
What about with the crisis contacts?
We have some frequent flyers.
So from a safety planning perspective, if an individual has 3 or more hospitalization or more than 6 contacts, as far as the hospitalizations are concerned, if it's going beyond 2, that's definitely a need for a safety plan as well as a structured case management approach after they release from the hospitalization area. And so that's one of the reasons why we would benefit from having a crisis case manager in order to address that concern going forward, which we have quite a few applicants. So
Where are we at on the discussions with the MCOs about that next stage? And
Well, thanks for asking.
sorry, would you like to have that non-recorded?
Probably. I am having significant issues because we have to sign up as an organization. The tax ID that the county uses is recognized in the medical world. They see the health department as as owning that tax ID. They will not let me set up a separate entity under the same tax ID. So there's just, I could go on for about 3 more days about this, but I'm stuck there. I'm working on unsticking it, but that's part of why I'm hiring someone, because it's beyond my expertise level on a scale that no one else can even. I've called all the resources and they have all said, I don't know what to do to help you. You should find someone and hire them to do this. So that's what I'm working on.
Okay. Joy.
Yep.
We'll let you go this time for real.
Thank you.
Maybe. Okay, next up, and we are a bit early, 11 o'clock. Elected officials update and report with the sheriff's department and all of theirs. So yep, bring on enough chairs for everybody and come on down. That's a thick packet this week.
Wow, it's full of information.
That's it, and I believe one of them is.
Huh?
For you. Would you
Sure.
like one too? You got. But I'm short.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Good morning. Sheriff Songer is at an appointment this morning and unable to join us. So I will read his update. There were a total of 9,051 calls for service from January 1st to September 18th, 2023. In addition to the calls for service, deputies served a total of 951 civil papers during that same time period. Posse deputies provided security at the Klickitat County Fair on the following days, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th of August, 2023. There was a great turnout at the fair and everyone seemed to be having a great time. From a security standpoint, there were no major problems. The county fair was a great success. On August 31st, 2023, we held our first Posse Scout meeting and accepted applications for the Posse Scout program. Please refer to the attached press release establishing the new Posse Scout program. Item 4, press release on September 2nd, 2023, during daylight hours, Klickitat County Sheriff's deputies and the Klickitat County Search and Rescue personnel recovered a female body in the Klickitat River off of Soda Springs Road. The location where the body was discovered would be approximately 10 miles downstream from the fish hatchery, where a 29-year-old female by the name of, Sandia Sirdar fell out of her kayak on June 2nd, 2023, and was swept downstream in the Klickitat River. We have not yet got a positive ID on the female body, but we do suspect the body may be of Sandia Sirdar. Please refer to the attached press release. And then I'll move on to my update. Lauren will give his update on the jail, and then Karen will give her update following that. The Klickitat County Sheriff's Office continues to see an increase in call volume across the county. Between August 15th and September 18th, KCSO responded to 630 calls compared to the 550 for the same time period in 2022. Domestic disturbance calls were at 24 for each time period. Harassment calls actually dropped from 13 to 2. Suspicious person calls increased from 39 to 49. Weapons offense calls increased from 3 to 10. Dangerous wildlife increased from 5 to 8. Trespassing calls decreased from 22 to 11. However, with hunting season just beginning, we will likely see an increase in those numbers, and the closure of Western Pacific Timber Company land will also create an increase in trespass calls. And we do have the attached press release for Western Pacific attached to the packet. The Sheriff's Office has been working toward creating its own peer support team. Deputy Eric Beasley, Deputy Tyrell Howard, and Corrections Corporal Kathy Jo Randall attended a critical incident stress management, also known as CISM, class in West Richland. Deputy Kirsten LaRue and Reserve Deputy Tim Harden are already certified, giving us a 5-person peer support team. Their role will be to provide information, emotional support to employees and their families when personal or professional problems may affect them. They will also provide critical incident stress debriefing to mitigate or resolve the psychological distress associated with a critical incident. Our team can be used by other agencies within Klickitat County, and they may be called upon by other agencies if necessary. I'd like to point out that when we had the incident in May in the jail, we actually called in a DOC CISM team to come down and give the support. So now we'll have our own internal team that will be right there within, can be utilized within an hour or so of any necessary involvements that we need them for. Deputy Chance LaRue will be attending a defensive tactics instructor training in Pasco from September 25th through the 29th. Defensive tactics training is crucial for both patrol and corrections deputies. And with 2 certified instructors, they would not be able to schedule multiple training sessions throughout the year. On September 24th, Sergeant Fred Killian, Sergeant Joe Riggers, and Deputy Adam Diamond will begin the EVOC training for all the KCSO deputies at Hammer and Pasco. They will complete the course with an instructor and have the opportunity to drive the course in both daylight and nighttime driving. It's a 4-day training stretch for them. And we have to also keep everybody on patrol also. So it's a whole fluctuation of rotation, getting people up there and for all their testing. The Marine Patrol successfully completed all the required hours on the water for 2023. We want to thank everyone who spent time on the water patrolling, as well as everyone who responded to various water incidents that were reported over the summer. They will continue with patrolling the waterways as time allows and to provide boat inspections. On September 8th, KCSO deputies were called to 24 Bames Way in Goldendale for a domestic violence call. Deputy Adam Diamond, Sergeant Fred Killian, and Cody Melton responded to that location. They made contact with the victim and moved her away from the scene. I responded to the location at their request, and I was able to transport the victim away from the property. Deputies attempted to locate Mr. Smith at the RV on the property where he resides by knocking on the door and asking him to come out. They had no response for Mr. Smith. Additionally, Detective Robert Bianchi and Reserve Deputy Ken Clinton responded to the scene as they are both trained negotiators. A search warrant was applied for and granted, and K9 Profi and Deputy Diamond, along with the other deputies, searched the vehicle, the residents in the property area, but were unable to locate the suspect. This case continues to be investigated and will be forwarded to the prosecutor for charges. The 24 Bames Way property has been a constant source of criminal activity for many years. Property is littered with abandoned vehicles, RVs, and has been the home to squatters for years. The current landowner and adjacent landowners have begun the eviction process for the squatters. While this is a long process, the surrounding neighbors will benefit from the removal of the ongoing criminal activity in the neighborhood. Earlier this, or maybe it was last year, we had the standoff where we had to bring in the Tri-City SWAT team, was also at that same location. So it is a constant source of criminal activity. On September 13th, Sheriff Songer and I attended the Lisle Town Council meeting at the Lisle Lions Club. The purpose of this meeting was to continue discussion on ways to reduce the criminal activity in Lisle. We provided the residents with packets of information that are included in today's packet. A Klickitat PUD representative was also present and discussed the street lighting options for the residents. I provided maps of Lisle thanks to Kim Gleason and a streetlight map courtesy of PUD. Flock camera representative Mike Gibbons was also present to answer any questions about the use of flock cameras. Mike Gibbons is currently drafting a pilot flock camera program 60-day contract for Klickitat County. Together, we will be approaching the Goldendale City Council, White Salmon City Council, and the Bingen City Council to ask them to join in this program. We will also make a presentation to the BOCC so that everyone can see the benefits of using flock camera system and have an opportunity to ask the expert for questions. With the onset of fall hunting season and weather changes, we anticipate the deputies will be busy with an increase of trespassing, suspicious, and weapons violations calls. We encourage property owners to make sure their property is adequately posted for no trespassing, no hunting. And please see the attached press release. I would also like to remind drivers that school and school activities are in full swing. School zones have posted speed zones, and you as a driver need to pay attention to the amount of traffic in those areas, including foot traffic. I think there was 2 calls yesterday for school zone issues and at least 2 yesterday. So it's been a busy time. Any questions? Wow.
Any questions? No,
Nope, not for me. Thank you, Karen.
I actually do. Where is that road?
Sorry.
It's out off Ownby Road, go out Old Mountain and then off of Ownby. It's way out in the Tulies.
There's service. That's right.
These people have, this is like the 2nd or 3rd generation that squatted on this property. The original property owner allowed them there. That gentleman passed away and his daughter, I believe, inherited the property and she wants them off the property, so. And there's a new property owner to the front of the property and they just had it all surveyed and some of their junk is overflowing onto his property. So
Has the new owner trespassed the person from the property?
yeah, they've been served a 3-day notice. They've been served a 3-day notice, and then yesterday, additional papers were filed in Superior Court to continue that process. So.
Looks like all 3.
So can you click on this one to see which? I believe it's this one. It's not this one.
Okay.
They run over to this one.
Okay.
So it's this property. And then the one in the front that belongs to a, no, this one over here. Yeah, Jack Loringer. He's a property owner that's begun this, and it's this property right here. Richard Summers' property. So
It's both of them.
it's this property and this property. That
Are
have,
having the issues.
yeah.
Okay.
And the road into it is atrocious. Like,
Yeah,
it's horrible.
it's not a road.
No, it's a trode. Lauren, it's your turn. Look, broke it.
Yeah,
Did you see?
off first, or I tried. to
Or
warn
not.
ya. You gotta turn it on, I've done that.
Sorry.
Okay, I updated my update from yesterday. So what you have in this packet is not the current one, but I'll read it to you and I emailed it as well. Currently, we have 32 people in custody in the jail. 1 person is in Eastern Washington State Hospital receiving treatment, and we have a few others who should actually be there. 1 that chants all night, 1 that yells at night, and 1 that hollers at the walls when no one is there. Hopefully we can get them the help that they need very soon. We're working on that. Both of our new hires, Corrections Deputy Villafana and Lee, are still doing great. And we have 2 more people in the pipeline going through the hiring process right now. 1 for Control Board Operator position that's open and 1 for a Corrections Deputy.
Will you be full then?
What's that?
Will that fill up all the boxes then?
Yes. If you remember from last month, I was having an issue with hearing back from the State Department of Health in regard to the posting of the unexpected fatality report to their website per the RCW. They said that they were short-staffed, but they were working on it. And I checked that just recently, the DHS website, and it is posted. The committee's findings is posted on the public website. The new clothes dryer was delivered and installed. That is very much appreciated by all the staff. They don't have to cart laundry out of the building anymore. Also, a couple weeks ago, Corporal Cooper was in the control room of the jail working on a report when he saw an inmate tying his pants around his neck and the other end up around the toilet divider in an attempt to hang himself. Corporal Cooper ran into the inmate's cell and released him from this makeshift noose. The inmate was okay and a counselor was called. Corporal Cooper received a letter of commendation from Sheriff Songer for his quick actions. I spoke last month about the multiple weekly calls for maintenance in the jail. This month I've included a list of some of the things that we had worked on and need to be worked on. That is included in the updated email that I sent. I won't, because of time, I won't go through that whole list. Using jail transition funds that came from AmeriGroup as a grant, we purchased some backpacks and other items to go in the backpacks, like socks, toothbrushes, toothpaste, snacks, cereal, a rain poncho, and a blanket to help some inmates with the transition out of jail once they're released. And that is all I have. If you have any questions,
Any questions?
No, not for me.
Thanks.
I always read farther ahead and write my notes down, so when you get to that page, my questions are ready. Oh, calendar.
I really appreciate your maintenance list here.
yes, sir.
It's growing.
Faster than it's shrinking.
Yes.
Okay, any other
All right.
questions? Hmm?
Mhm.
Okay, I wanted to give the Commissioner Anderson time to read before
You
talking.
can always come
Okay,
back.
all right. Under the Civil Division budget, we're watching all of our expenses and doing what we can. I do want you to be aware that there will be a supplemental budget for our Fund 124, which is our investigative fund. We hadn't anticipated some of Profi's expenses, et cetera. So we're going to be increasing from our pool of funds that 124 currently has in it. There will be no effect on the general budget. We just
doing transfers.
transfers, yeah. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Contracts, you've got 2 contracts in your basket today. One is for the Department of Corrections Amendment 5, and one is for the Hanford mission integration. That is the Hammer EVOC training that they'll be going to this weekend.
What does the EVOC stand for?
Emergency Vehicle
Operation.
Operations course. That's where you learn to drive fast and back up fast and don't hit the cones.
You hope.
You
Don't
hope.
you also go through that in your training?
Yeah, you have to do it every 2 years.
Okay.
So this, and every deputy has to sign the one sheet that's within that contract that says if we glow in the dark, we will not sue Hanford. That's included in there as well, so. Then there's Carillon is still, I have not received the response back from the PA on the Carillon contract for us. And then jumping sort of ahead, good news, I've actually made some headway on the contracts that I'm writing for the cities and timbers and everything. Now that we have full staffing, I can actually get back to my duties. So those are coming along. As I said, we've got a full staff in our civil division. CPLs are almost caught up from our backlog. Paper service is very active, and public records requests are also caught up. So we are focusing on training, and right now we're looking at both in-person and on online training courses. there will be LIRA, which is a public records training that McKenna and I will be attending up in Blaine, Washington from October 1st. We drive up there and we'll be done on October 5th. And then that will give her some really good strategic information on things that she's been learning online. And then dropping down to sex offenders, that's just a continual process that we check and verify them. There's a quarterly meeting and I'll be attending that on the 11th of October. Carmen may come with me if her schedule allows. And that will be up in Ellensburg. So I'll just be traveling the first part of the month. Range timber, I'm also working on those contracts, and I found out today that there is a meeting tomorrow that Carmen and I are gonna jump on at 11 o'clock with the land trust over on the western side of the county because our range timber deputy is under the weather. So we'll jump on that call to discuss the program with them. And then body worn cameras are doing great. And we've got redaction software. They're working out one of the kinks of allowing McKenna to actually open up the redaction and be able to redact on it. Only the sergeants have that access. So they're trying to resolve that right now, but
Adding her to the ability to do it.
to redact,
Yeah.
yeah. Profi,
And it's all tied in with Spillman and everything's.
Yes.
It's all backing up, so you don't have to, and it's working well with the PA's office being able to get in there.
the PA's office, we have to tell it to send them the reports.
Okay.
But it is working well. When you send outside the county or outside of our county email, there's an extra step that has to go through. We can't just within the software say, send it to so-and-so.
Which is probably a good thing. Right.
Right. So there's a few extra steps, but it is not too cumbersome. So.
Okay.
K9 Profi, who's always a hit. He is back at 100%. The surgery worked well and he has been released for full duty. And you should see the smile on that dog's face, and he knows where the treats are in my office. And pretty soon, I'm sure he'll have that door open. But the best news I have of all is we met our hours of on the water. And so we have 134.41 hours, which is over the 133 that's required. And the new director of the Parks and Rec boating program literally said he was proud of us because he knows what an accomplishment that was. This is the first time in many, many years that we've met our hours.
Really?
Yes. And so
They
he's,
figured the hours would be the easy part, the inspections would be the hard part,
well, no,
getting people to comply with an
Yeah.
inspection.
You have to have people work on their days off to cover those hours,
right.
the majority of the time. So they're giving up their days off to do marine
Boating, to
patrol.
go boating.
Right.
And we've lost 3 of our boating deputies. So we've been down staff and our boating team has stepped up. And so.
So boating is only on their days off, so it's all overtime?
Mhm. And that's what the
The
grant pays
majority of
for.
the time. And that's why the grant covers that.
That difference.
And so, so I'm putting together the final invoice for this year's program. So we'll be getting that money.
See, they
in.
should start a posse boating program and then you can sign up and ride the jet skis around it.
Well,
I was
we
gonna send
have
it
a
to your
posse.
house For the inspection on your boat.
Well, they could, it would fail, but I don't care.
All we have to do is have an inspection.
There you go. Just
And if you
show up
don't put it in the
anytime and
water-
open the hatches and yeah,
Yeah,
it ain't left a parking spot in 2 years, but feel free to inspect it.
see, okay.
Yeah, same thing in my house. I got my boat out and got it all ready and never put it on the water. this
Well, but we'll come and inspect it for you.
There you go. Now you're at
um,
12.
The let's see, where was I gonna go? Oh, both of the boats are functioning. However, the Osprey has a little electrical problem and we're tracking that down. It spent a number of years in saltwater just sitting there, and the boating department is very embarrassed at the condition that it was sent to us in, because another county had it. So they're very appreciative of the maintenance and care that we're taking with their boat. So
is it a little electrical problem or could it be a big electrical?
don't know yet.
What is the issue? Is it draining the battery or is something not working?
Yeah, it won't turn on. It got stalled out at Hood River. And so we had to have somebody tow us in. So Ken Clinton, who's a master at all of this, is repairing, tracing it. So he's got the skill, and
We have that in the budget.
it's part of the Marine program. The Marine grant covers the
That fu-
repair of the
that
boat.
repairs.
So-
Oh, I thought maintenance was on us.
Nope.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, no, so any maintenance on the boat comes out of our grant. So.
Yeah, I hope that they get it fixed and it doesn't crap out in the middle of 5-foot swells and they're going sideways and
Right.
rough. Yeah. that
Yeah.
would Get really ugly.
Well, luckily it was the end of the season, so they're able to take their time and really go through it.
And test drive it a few more times on nice flat days before
Right.
they trust it again.
Right.
Yeah, so, but the purple boat's working great. I was out on that Labor Day weekend and
Doing patrols.
we were doing this.
I was gonna say,
There's
you gotta pick-
video.
You gotta pick your days better.
Yeah,
Is the hours man hours or is it boat hours on water?
boat hours.
Okay.
So if you have two people on jet skis, that's 2 boat hours. But if you have 2 people on the main boat, it's 1 hour.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So jet skis better, or what we did on Labor Day weekend was we had all 3 crafts in the water. The 2 jet skis and the boat, so.
I
that's-
thought if you had 3 people on the boat, you'd be able to count 3.
No,
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
no, so, but the program is doing well. And then as Sheriff Songer alluded in his report, the Posse Scout program, so we swore in 15 young people. And then they showed up 2 weekends later to be at the Bingen Huck Fest. They walked in the parade, 11 of them, and 3 parents, grandparents walked in the parade with them. They threw candy out, came back to our booth, and you should have seen them. We had hundreds of stuffed animals, and within an hour, we were out of stuffed animals and out of stickers and coloring books because they were running all over Huck Fest, handing out things to kids. And
Very excited.
the smiles on those kids' face, they were just so happy to be there and have something positive to do. So we're gonna meet on our next meeting, the 30th. We're gonna meet on Saturdays from now on, and that'll be at 9 a.m. in Dallasport. So
We ran out of room at the Potts building.
yeah,
We had people just standing room only, so we're gonna go to the Dallasport. And that way will be a central location for people who wanna also join from the west end.
Yeah, I saw that in your picture. Everybody was standing around the room. And I
Yeah.
was curious if you were going to find a different meeting room or use ours downstairs or do one here, one in Dallasport, one in White Salmon, one back here, one in Dallasport, one in White Salmon.
Dallasport seems pretty good right now.
Yeah.
And the kids are having a great time, and my daughter made all of the shirts for them with her little cricket, and so we were able to keep it very economical, and the money for the shirts were donated, and so.
I donated the
supplies.
vinyl and Uh,
So.
I saw your fundraiser coming up later in
we
your.
do have a
update.
fundraiser next month.
We do.
But we'll wait till we get there. That was me
Uh,
looking ahead.
Have we looked into the Posse Scouts and our insurance company and and all that? as the risk?
I know there was, questions needing to look into it, and I think there was a question because we have to pay L and I on the posse people, right?
We pay L and I on the posse people, mostly if they're doing, like
On the
traffic
recorded
control.
hours.
Yeah,
You're right.
Right.
The question the risk pool had was we can't pay L and I on youth
Right.
because there is no L and I on youth.
right.
So there was a risk question and insurance question that will end up needing to go before the insurance board to
Okay. Yeah, most of
see
the,
if we're funded there or if you guys are gonna have to figure out some kind of outside insurance
okay,
for that program.
yeah,
We just don't want to go with no insurance.
right. And so,
We don't have an answer back yet, so I wasn't gonna. bring it
okay,
up.
I'd also like to bring up, and I didn't put it into my report, that we still don't have our new vehicles. I have,
Are they gonna be, what year are they gonna be when we get them?
probably 2030 at this rate, with the UAW on strike. We now don't even have any idea when we're gonna get a new vehicles. And I'm telling you right now, we're in dire need. I have a timber range truck that just it just had more repairs to it. I've got a deputy actually in the jail Durango because his vehicle's in with an electrical issue down at the dealership. And there's no other patrol vehicles. He was gonna get into a marked patrol unit at one of our backup rigs, and the carbon monoxide detector went off at 40. So the sergeant said, no, park it. The jail Durango was the only thing available. They forgot I had a vehicle, so I'll probably end up giving my vehicle up so that we can have a backup vehicle. I mean, we're getting desperate. Eric and I are gonna work hard at getting all of these dead cars moved over to the Potts building and then moving forward to get all of that surplus. It's just finding the time to do it.
Are we gonna surplus it from the Potts building or from the fairgrounds?
Well, we've got a lot of work to do to them before we get them up
Okay,
for
'cause
that,
that's
right? Because
coming in the fall here, sooner rather than later. Have you talked to Greg?
I've asked Eric to start that process. That's his deal.
And then the timber range truck that is having issues, this the same one we just put a motor and
We did, it
transmission
just
in?
had to have a new coil and it just had to have a coil and stuff put on it, is my understanding. So it's back running. But if we bring on a second timber person, which we're doing a background on, we don't even have a vehicle for that person to drive. So I'll get a hold of Wickersham and see if they have anything available. I even had to borrow the health department's little car for my person who's on light duty to travel back and forth so she could have a car to drive. We didn't want her in a marked car.
We still have all of our.
Right, but those are usually short term and this is a long term light duty. This is a detail that's gonna last through probably February. So,
Light duty.
yes,
Can you elaborate?
yes, she's pregnant. She can't go on the road. So and her truck that she was in is out to a deputy because I had to have a vehicle, so. For a deputy to use, so we're still playing nightmares with vehicles. It's never ending.
Maintenance in the jail, maintenance on vehicles, there's maintenance.
I know, it's
Just the
crazy.
Way we play.
Yes. Yeah. The jail roof project, though, seems to be moving forward pretty well.
Pray for no rain.
Yeah, it's supposed to come later this week, but they've made really good progress.
Let's say there ain't a whole lot of supplies on the ground anymore. So.
No, it's looking depleting pretty quickly. So, I do, want to touch base on the flock camera and get on the agenda for next month. And so I'll touch base, cause I'm gonna have Mike come up and give I don't know how we do it, if we need to do a I want him to give the program and he has a whole presentation and they have another person that comes in on Zoom.
So this 60 days, it's kind of like the stuff that we put in the cars. It's free for 60 days
Yeah.
to try it out.
Yep.
And then what
Yep.
kind of costs are we looking at off? after
So
that?
it depends. What we're proposing is a 10 camera system. One of those being a mobile camera so that we can move around. That way we can hit a target area that we know we're having a lot of activity in. I'm hoping we could keep at least one camera if we could just purchase one camera, and I don't remember the cost on that. The 10 cameras, if we were to purchase all of it, you're looking at around $30,000. Clearly, that's not feasible for our budget right now. But we don't have to keep all those cameras. I think right now we're really we need to use it as data collection and show that these cameras do work. And we're also going to go to the other city councils because everyone can benefit from this. Talking with Mike, the town of Florence recently did a pilot project, thinking they got in just a few warrants come through their city. In a 60-day period, they had 700 people with warrants travel through their city.
700 vehicles that
Are associated with people
Associated with a warrant.
with warrants. And I'm sure most of you are aware it was made the news, and we are investigating. There was a kidnapping in Trout Lake last week. Had we had cameras, we could really back up part of the investigation of where they traveled to by putting that information into a camera system if we had those cameras out in strategic locations. And we've already got the strategic mapping for placement of those cameras. I'm excited. I think that we'll
is
have
there
some-
monthly cost on top of
No.
the purchase of the cameras?
no.
But it's
It's an annual lease. So it's $3,000 per camera
Per year.
per year.
Okay.
But they do all of the maintenance, they do all the upgrades, they do all the installation permitting, they do all of that. We just get access to everything. And when you when you go into that lease option, you also can have access to cameras with surrounding counties.
I was gonna say, do we get access to the state and the EIA and all their cameras too?
Yeah, and I already have some access to some of those cameras as part of trying to learn how to use them. And I've got the list back at the thing I can send to you. How many, there's 40 cities, I believe, in the state of Washington right now that have cameras, including ESD 105, which I thought was interesting that a school district had purchased them, which makes perfect sense if you think about the logistics of school being a vulnerable target for shooters.
Have you guys looked into any grant funding, any grants out there that would cover it?
I'm going to be talking with the Flock Camera. They usually have assistance with some grant funding for that.
Let's say some of those Department of Justice grants that could be used on
Right.
anything might qualify.
It would be beneficial if we had somebody had time to write a grant, but unfortunately,
We might next year. We might have a grant. Right?
I think it's
We're hoping.
very
How long-
beneficial. There's a lot of funding out there available.
How long do they hold your data?
So the data is stored for 30 days.
Okay.
And no facial recognition or anything like that.
Yeah, it doesn't do facial recognition. None of the information goes to any federal agency. It is only it doesn't go to, it can't be used for things like immigration, FBI, anything like that. Nothing like that can happen. It's part of the, that's one reason we're really kind of excited, because for that program, they can't use that information for they can't come take our information.
They don't sell our
They do
information.
not sell to a third party, especially the federal government.
Where the money's at.
So, and I included in here some of the stats from the Flock that they had available the other day that I pulled off the Yakima Police website. I think, oh, here he's got it. So in 1 month, they had 45 stolen vehicles, 28 stolen plates, 13 violent offenders, 2 missing people, and 3 others. It also assisted with 12 vehicle thefts, 3 domestic violence cases, and 1 weapons offense. So the statistics out there surrounding our county are pretty incredible. The number, I'll send over the packet that I have put together. I think it's very informational.
So Carmen, we have 9 flock cameras currently in the county,
Yeah,
correct?
there are 8 or 9 out in the east end of the county that are owned by businesses. And so PUD and Mercer Ranches own cameras.
And
But-
then the feds still have some too, right?
Yes, the federal government does use those cameras. And they're strategically placed throughout the state.
In some of the paper service that we've been doing on the civil side, we've been spending a lot of time at Rhine Village in White Salmon. And in talking to not the manager of the property, but the people above the manager, I talked with her about the flock camera. She was thinking that that might be a good thing for them to get as well. So encouraging some of the other businesses to partner in, and one of the reasons it's called Flock, I don't know if you guys remember this at all in any of our conversations about it, is it's a connection of cameras, kind of like a flock of birds. And so encouraging some of the businesses to also connect in with us to protect our county. Anyway.
I'm excited. Anything else?
Nope, you gave us a whole packet of info to review, and I'm really excited to look through it all.
I was,
I'm sorry, I couldn't get
I
it to
looked
you
through it
last
all.
week.
No, I looked through it all, and it's like the one that got me was the call for service, and it was back pain one.
Was what?
You call 911 for back pain. Somebody called.
Yeah.
Oh, you would be amazed.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, we get it all.
I need to call you guys when my grass gets too tall.
I also,
The neighbor's grass gets too tall.
I also want to mention real quick that DEM come in and did a Spillman training for the jail staff last week. That was a 2-hour training. They did it 2 days in a row. We also incorporated new front office civil staff to participate. DEM are the experts in Spillman. We're going to work on becoming experts. I actually have the SAA training, but I don't use it enough to go teach people. So we're going to work hard at getting some people in the jail and stuff into that through that training. Probably McKenna too, for the civil side. It's important. Yes, sir.
I'll wait
Okay.
my turn.
All right, so there's some upgrades into the Spillman, into the jail booking that we need to do. So it's gonna really take some of that expert level knowledge and user, because it's very complicated to change the forms. So there's an upcoming conference. I don't know if we'll get anybody there out of our department this year, but I definitely want to make sure we get somebody into their conference next year. Hopefully they will move it closer. It's been in Orlando the last 2 years. And I would really prefer it if they just moved it back to Salt Lake. It's a little closer and easier to travel to.
How have we been doing with getting correction staff in training in a timely manner? Have they gotten, state gotten any better on?
They've extended, so Burgess has been on the waiting list now. We were hoping in December, but I believe now he's moved to January. He's gonna be waiting.
So I
nearly a
have
year.
Washington State Association of Counties led steering committee on Thursday. We're discussing what our hot topics are. And you've made my top 4. So, and many other people's top 4. I'm trying to get the state to provide more training opportunities. So we'll see how that goes next year.
Lauren did schedule a training for next year for the jail staff to host a training here. And I didn't put in all the training that we're gonna be doing the next couple of months for patrol staff too, because we're really gonna hit training hard.
I actually saw that and I like it.
The more training, the better, reduces our liability.
Yes.
But CJTC definitely needs to get more
Amp it up,
classes.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yeah.
gotta,
So that was part of the deal is sure you get your training up there, but you need to have more of them and they need to be available on this side of the mountain.
Exactly.
So
Pasco just graduated its first BLIA Academy. So that's good news. That's moving forward pretty well. So
if they could get a correction class in there, that would be awesome.
even better.
Can you BLIA so the people online?
Oh, it's the Basic Law Enforcement Academy.
Yeah.
So I have WASPIC conference next month. So of course, the jail stuff will be brought up and
What's
we'll-
WASPIC?
Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. So that conference is not gonna be held at Skamania this year. It will be in Tri-Cities.
What percentage of the time do you figure our deputies are doing on all the civil process and papers?
I think that varies day to day.
It does. And up until we had two posse deputies that became unavailable, our plan had been for those two to be able to go out and do some of the lesser problematic paper service, to lighten up the load for the deputies. And once
Generally, they're given 3 papers a day, I guess, to go
Yeah.
serve.
Each-
That's on
each-
average. Mhm.
yeah,
And sometimes they have to make multiple
Attempts.
attempts. So, because people are trying to avoid service. So that happens pretty frequently.
And did I see, you're doing some as well? on
I do
that?
some as well.
Okay.
And we did just change the process for no contact orders when somebody's incarcerated. For years and years, those no contact orders or restraining orders or harassment orders would go in through the court paperwork that they would just email to the jail staff. And there was really no record that that document was served other than what notes the jail staff made. And so now what we're doing is those documents come through to the records to the civil side. They're processed just like any other document that would come out of the courts to be served. That way we have it recorded and then it gets taken back to the jail. Dispatch is notified just like the deputies would notify it if they were serving one out in the public. That way we've got a
We got
nice
the
paper
trail.
trail.
Well, and it shows up clearer on their names table
Right.
that it's there.
That it's there. So it,
If it goes straight to the jail, it bypasses Spillman
Mm-hmm.
until somebody in the jail would enter it, so.
so it's more assurances that documents are getting in front of the people.
any questions from the board?
Nope, I'd just like to say thank you. It was a very positive update, a lot of progress.
Lots of progress.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
week.
Thank you.
And see you at the next.
Oh,
one.
what are we eating at the fundraiser, by the way?
I don't think that's been
We're-
decided.
Discussing it with the kids to confirm whether they want hamburgers and hot dogs or spaghettis. We're gonna let the kids have a say since it's their fundraiser. But,
Hopefully the parents are the ones baking the cookies and the cupcakes, not the kids. So.
Hey, now, there's
Yes.
some
I pay
good
more
kid
for
bakers.
parent made cupcakes than I do for children. They taste better. They usually,
Get mixed up.
yeah.
I don't think the kids are actually gonna participate in the actual food preparation. That would be safer.
That's perfect. We'll see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You will see how excited they are.
I just got an email from, the White Salmon Valley Parks District about them wanting to come October 17th to present to us. They said they didn't receive a response, so they sent another question, just email. Did you get that email?
Yep.
And how do you feel?
Did they book or not book?
It just says they did not receive an email dated 8/28.
No, I sent one to Alyssa that's fine with me if it fits in the schedule. Issues. If we can amend our business agenda for this afternoon and be able to put a brief discussion on public defense lawyer contracts. Because we
Okay.
got that,
Yep. Where do you
In
want
there
it?
as well.
You want it under new business?
I would.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing for the agenda, but I do have a board pending that I'll bring up now for both of my seatmates. Travel expenses. Turning in your mileage logs. It's to my attention that we're behind. And when I first started, I didn't turn mine in for a while and was told by both the auditor's office and budget that it throws a wrench in everything if we wait too long and pile those up. So I would just like to remind my seatmates to try not to keep more than 2 months at a time before you turn in your travel vouchers.
Thank you.
Good reminder. Everything else.
And that was one I had on my list that I wanted to, and that's all I have for a morning.
Okay. Anything from you, Commissioner Zoller?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good as well.
Okay, with that, if we have no more board pending for this morning, we can adjourn for lunch if I would take a motion.
I would make a motion to recess for
Recess.
lunch.
And I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recess for lunch back at 1 o'clock. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recessing for lunch, say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes.